Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and we're on episode 18 of On the Tube. And this was a shorter week. I didn't get to watch a whole lot of television, watched a lot more movies this week with some time off. But I have a couple of shows at least I'm going to be talking about to you all today. And the first one is going to be the first season of Castle Rock. And I've read some Stephen King. I really enjoy some of the work that I've read of Stephen King's. I also really enjoy quite a bit of the films that have been adapted from Stephen King's work. Obviously, Stephen King doesn't always like all the ones that are adapted from his work, but he was more involved in this Hulu series where it takes place in a town, Castle Rock, and has a lot of influences from a lot of his different works. And the one thing that I really appreciate about this show is that it really captures the tone of a Stephen King story. There's hope, there's humanity, but it's unnerving and creepy and eerie. And I really appreciate that about this show. It has an interesting bunch of characters. There's a couple episodes that really dig deep into particular characters. And the acting is very well done in this show. Andre Holland, Sissy Spacek, Bill Skarsgård. It's a strong group of actors as well, and the show keeps you on your toes. You're always wondering, and does this particular season make a perfect sense by the end? It's does a decent job of fleshing out this story, this mystery that's going on about who's this young man that they find in Shawshank Prison after the warden kills himself. And that's really what sets the stage in this first episode, and what's his connection to this man who was adopted, young black man. And he was adopted by this preacher, and he grew up to be a lawyer, and he comes back to his hometown and is trying to figure out why this young man who was found in this prison was asking for him. And there's definitely eeriness, there's creepiness, and the show delivers in many different ways. It doesn't work out perfectly, and I'm interested to see how it fleshes out in the second season, but this is definitely something, if you're a big Stephen King fan, definitely go check out Castle Rock if you haven't. And if you're a fan of the dark, eerie, and creepy horror shows, this wasn't necessarily really scary, but it does deliver on a lot of unnerving and foreboding thrills in it. The next show I'm going to be talking about is the first season of The Crown. And I remember when The Crown came out, and this was a big thing for Netflix. It was one of the first big events that Netflix had. And I have to say, first off, the acting is fantastic from top to bottom. When it's a smaller role, like King George with Jared Harris and Matt Smith, and who plays Prince Philip. But then Claire Foy at the center gives a fantastic performance. Vanessa Kirby as Princess Margaret as well. And really, the one that a lot of people were talking about and that really stuck out to me was John Lithgow as Winston Churchill, which I thought was an interesting choice, but he really embodies that spirit that you see that's portrayed by Winston Churchill when he's on television or in movies. And the performances are great, the production design's great. There's an interesting build that keeps you hooked through this whole season, centered around Queen Elizabeth coming to power and then the rough relationship that she has with her sister. And this show's overstuffed. These are hour-long episodes, and it can take its time at certain points, but there's certain points where this really delivers in that emotion, there's some tense moments as well. And I just feel like maybe there was a bit too much going on in this first season, and it's 10 episodes, like full hour-long episodes, like Netflix likes to do. And I'm definitely hooked to see the next season, and I know that this is one of the bigger shows, and they are in the process of bringing season 4, and talking about casting for season 5 as they replace actors as time passes. But this is definitely, I can see why this is one of those big moments and big television shows for Netflix originally. And then the last show I'm going to be talking about this week is the second season of Jordan Peele's produced The Twilight Zone on CBS All Access. And I really enjoyed the first season. This one definitely doesn't bring the star power the first season attracted, because there's some big names in the first season. And the second season, there's some recognizable actors in there. And I feel like this season feels a little more derivative. There's more episodes that feel like, oh, that's like a twisted version of Groundhog Day, which there is an episode similar to Groundhog Day featuring Topher Grace, and it takes a different perspective on it, and it was creepy, it was eerie. I could say that these episodes were well put together. It's just some of them don't feel as original, and some of them feel a little elongated. And I went back because I never regularly watched the original Twilight Zone, and they were 25-minute episodes. Some of these episodes push 45-50 minutes, and you can tell that they lose a bit of steam. The first episode of this season, starring Jimmy Simpson, and had Jillian Jacobs in it too, like, that episode delivered. It was dark, it was menacing, it was definitely one of the darkest episodes that this show's put forward so far, and centered around a man who has this connection in his head with a woman, and they're falling in love, and what he would do for love. And I feel bad because some of these episodes just didn't really grab me, and I could guess what was going on from the very start. But you know what? I get excited every time Jordan Peele comes on and starts telling us that we're gonna go on a trip to the Twilight Zone. And gets me every time. And I enjoyed the show a lot, and I'm going to continue watching it. It does make me think it's like I should really go check out the original and watch through that as well. But this was my shortened week of On the Tube, episode 18. But thank you for tuning in, and if you want to talk about any of the shows, leave some comments below, and let's talk some TV. And thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.